Okay. AI companion. Okay. Well, hey, welcome to the Spicer Life podcast where we take bold risks, build wealth. You see, this is the thing too, and then it sounds too rehearsed, and I hate it. And I'm like, I want it to just flow and be natural, right? So,
Yeah.
hey, welcome to the Spicer Life podcast. Today we've got my friend and I guess almost mentor, Jeremy Sandell with the Sandell Group. I met him, this summer when I started working with Ty Lopez. Jeremy was there, and he's been mentoring a lot of the new sales guys, and we've just connected. We've got a lot in common. So I really wanted to bring him on the podcast today to talk about, his life, his journey through into business from being an employee. He's got a very interesting life story and background, and I really just want to, share that with people to hope that they can help unblock some hangups that you might have and kind of overcome your own obstacles and get out of your own way. So thanks for coming on today, Jeremy. Really appreciate it. How's life
Yep.
down in Mexico?
Dude, it's good. It's good. Anybody who's making six figures, if you're working online, go to Mexico or Brazil or somewhere. Like it's a quarter of the cost. I'll tell you something crazy, man. My doctor visits in America and the prescriptions that I need typically cost me in total somewhere around 1,100 to $1,300. Down here, it cost me $39
Dang.
for a doctor visit and a prescription. Same exact stuff. It was
Wow.
nuts.
Yeah, that already adds $1,000 extra a month in spending cash then.
Yeah, yeah,
Talk about savings. See, that's the thing too with lots of people where they discuss like financial advice and things. They're always talking about reducing your living expenses, but they never talk about getting out of the country that costs so darn much.
yeah. I ran the numbers. Literally, I think it was either yesterday or the day before. And in America, my cost, and to be fair, it's like me and my fiance, so it's for two people. In America, my monthly expenses, including rent, utilities, Uber, having date night at the movies once a week, stuff like that, like everything. It's around 8 grand a month. Down here, it's about 2,000 to 2,500. It's
Yeah.
nuts, man. It's nuts.
Well, and then now you can use a lot of that additional cash to do other investments or grow your business, that kind of stuff. And I mean, I know a little bit more about the Sandell Group, and we'll get into that, like because I know what you do, but I'd actually like to backtrack a little bit further because you've been running your business now, what, 10 years?
Almost, yeah, about 9, almost 10 years.
So back up a little bit before that, because you're not, how old are you? You're not that old.
35?
Yeah, okay. So you started at 25, your business. So before 25, when you were in business for yourself, what were you doing? Like working for somebody else? What kind of work were you involved in?
Yeah, so in high school, I started like everybody else, like bottom of the ladder in America, working fast food. My first job was at a candle store because I wanted easy access to women and it smelled good. So I was like, this is a perfect situation. And then I went into the food industry and I stayed there until I was about 20 years old. And I was the night manager at a Jack in the Box in Longview, Washington. And there was this lady that would come through like every day, and she was really overweight, like crazy, crazy overweight. To give you like a visual, this woman had her seat all the way back, and her stomach was still on top of the steering wheel. And I just remember every time she came through, my job was to say, would you like to go large? I'd like to try to upsell a cheesecake, milkshake, stuff like that. But every time that lady came through, I was like, I'm making the world a worse place by being here. Like I was like, this woman is obviously out of control. I can tell, I can look at her. It's like when you see somebody on drugs in Skid Row in LA, you can tell they're not in control of their lives. And it was the same thing with this lady. And at one point I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I gotta figure something else out. This isn't working. At the time, my girlfriend at the time got pregnant, and so I went from having like an okay job in a really low cost area. My rent at that time was like 400 or 500 bucks for was it a one bedroom, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Longview's a cheap area. Nobody wants to live there. And I was like, my girlfriend's pregnant. I quit my job, but I think there's a way to make money on the internet. There's no way there's all this stuff going on the internet and nobody's making money from it. Like there's for sure people making money. And you know, it's interesting because now like everybody uses Amazon for everything. It's not like even a weird thing that you're doing it. But like 10 years ago, it was it was popular, but it's not like in America, every house has toilet paper. Same thing with Amazon. Everybody uses Amazon. But 10 years ago, it was like kind of on the cusp of like being an every household thing and just a lot of households. And I remembered like just looking online. I signed up for something, it was like $150, and I got this bag in the mail with these like soy protein powders and multivitamins. And there was a DVD in there called How to Live Your Best Year Ever by Jim Rohn. And
Okay.
it was interesting because at that time I was just coming out of being a communist and an atheist. And my perspective of the world, I was really naive in the sense that I didn't know there was such a thing as a motivational speaker or like a mentor or a business speaker or anything. Like I really thought the only people that like spoke powerful, empowering messages were priests. And since I was an atheist, I was not going to go to a church. And also, priests live off of the charity of other people, so they're not going to teach me how to make money. So I was like, man, I watched this DVD. I think it was probably every day for at least 3 months, if not for 6 months straight. Every single day, I watched the whole thing, and it really just it struck home for me because I realized one of the things Jim Rohn said, he was talking about when he was broke and he has a family and all these things that like he's late on his promises and he's late on his bills and the bill collectors are calling. And I remembered hearing him say, I had this blame list, you know, the taxes are too high. If the Democrats stay in power, that'll mess things up. If the Republicans get into power, that'll really mess things up. And he had all these blames. And I didn't know because I wasn't tuned into how I was thinking. That was exactly how I thought every day. It was everybody else's fault that I had to settle for working in fast food and just taking whatever wage people would pay me. And so that was my first business. I was an Herbalife distributor. Um, Anybody who goes on my Facebook, there's a picture of me wearing the little button that says "Ask Weight Now, Lose Me How," which was hilarious because I weighed 125 pounds. So like I didn't need to lose weight. I had no knowledge of like losing weight. I needed to gain weight. And I didn't know what to do at all. Like I was like, I've got a business. Now I'm going to be rich. And I didn't realize like in order for your business to make money, you have to go talk to strangers and get them to give you money in exchange for a product. And so my first experience in business was an absolute failure because I didn't know what to do except bother my friends. And all my friends were people that, you know, the month prior, I was smoking weed all day with, I was drinking every night with. We were all heavy cigarette smokers. So, like, none of them are going to be my target market, anyways. And I just started looking online. And eventually that led me to becoming a NASM personal trainer, certified personal trainer. And the first real, I'd say real job I had where I had to learn a real skill set that wasn't just like repeating really simple processes was I was selling personal training for myself to train people. And the first week I was doing that was the first week I'd ever done sales, like really done sales, where I actually talked to strangers. It was the first week I'd ever worked out in a gym ever.
Oh, wow.
And it was the first week that I had gotten certified as a personal trainer. So everything at that point was brand new. And that led me through a few years in the gym and then a bunch of random stuff like selling industrial equipment, selling Kirby vacuums as like $3,500 vacuums door to door. And eventually my first like I'd say my first big business was running an insurance agency for farmers insurance. And man, I thought I was the boss. I was making like 8, 9 grand a month. And I was like, dude, I'm rich. Like people don't even know how rich I am. And that business failed, and it was super humbling because I realized even if you are running that kind of business, which is similar to a franchise, you don't have control over marketing. You can't make a lot of changes to your website. Like there's a lot of things that you're limited on that make a dramatic impact on your sales. And that actually led me to the Sandell group, because the thing that everybody in my office was saying, we were all saying, I wish I could just pay somebody to do my social media. And I was like, I could do that. Like that could be my business. That's what I could do. I could just work online and travel. And now 10 years later, it's nuts, man. Like my whole life is it's cool because I always thought I had like outlandish dreams, like this like laptop lifestyle. Like I'm gonna drink cocktails on the beach while I make money from my laptop. And everything's better than I ever imagined. And it continues to happen. It's life is cool, but it's also strange.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually neat when you say that because that's super that still is a thing, right? Everybody wants this laptop lifestyle and they're selling that, right? Like we've got this course, we can teach you, we can do this stuff, but it's like we both know that, you need a good mentor, you need somebody around that can help show you the way if you don't know how to do it. But it's still a lot of work to get it set up, and a lot of work is relative. I mean, you have to be able to be confident that you can do it, but you have to have the skills of selling to be able to get those clients and that kind of stuff. When you talk about making that like leading up to when you went down the path where you had that awakening with the lady at the drive-through, what was your childhood like, before that? Like, did you have good mentors in your life before you stumbled upon the DVD of Jim Rohn, or was it just a free-for-all?
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes people don't really believe me when I tell them my life story, because people see the way I look, like blonde hair, blue eyes. I look young. I look like I'm a nice person. I'm not really, most people wouldn't say I'm rough around the edges unless they're watching like my workout videos. And but like I grew up really rough. Like I grew up in Whittier, California. In the 90s, it was a very there was a lot of gangs there. There were 13
Okay.
people that lived in my house. Um, Incredible amounts of violence, like the kind of stuff you read in books, like A Child Called It. And half of growing up, I was with my family. The other half, I was in group homes. And for those, a lot of people don't understand what a group home is. It's basically like a state. It's a house that's run by the state, and different organizations will employ people to work 8 hours a day in three different shifts to watch a bunch of kids that can't be with their parents, essentially because their parents have drug problems, or their parents don't want them, or their parents are abusive or anything else like that. I didn't really have a lot of mentors. I had two people early in life that did very small things that made massive impacts in the way that I thought. One was my grandma. When I was really young, I remember my grandma saying to me, whatever you want to be, you can do it. Like you can do whatever you want in life. And I remembered like watching stuff on TV, like watching the rockets going to the moon and the space station and stuff like that. And I was like, well, those are just people too. Like it's not like God came down and he's like, you people over there are special, and everybody else, you suck. And so like that really stuck with me. And then when I was in group homes, I was in a group home. It's really funny, you'll like the name. It's called Orange County Mentors for Youth.
Okay.
um and I literally didn't even know what that meant. Like to me it was just the title of this company that was essentially putting me in prison. Like that's the way I felt about the whole situation, was like, why did these people do this to me? But I had this mentor, is a guy named Steve Lowe, who is I don't know if he's still involved in that company or not, but he runs an amazing acting coaching class in LA still. And I just remember him always like telling me like you should go after it, like you should just keep trying. I wanted to be a rock star, and he would like read my songs. And as an adult, I'm like, he was reading it to see how I was mentally doing, because he could read and be like, wow, this kid's all
Oh
fucked
yeah.
up or something. But he was always encouraging. He was like, "Oh, Jeremy, it feels like this one you're just trying too hard. Like, what were you listening to when you wrote this?" And I was like, "Oh, I was listening to Pink Floyd." He's like, "That would have been one of my top 3 or 4 guesses by reading this." And so he always kind of just encouraged me in the sense that he was like, I work with people in Hollywood. Like I see people every single day that started with nothing, that are working as, cashiers and waiters and waitresses that end up making huge movies and stuff. So I had those two people. Unfortunately, I didn't appreciate it until a long time after. Like I never really appreciated my grandma until years and years after she had passed away. And Steve, I would say it was probably almost 10 years. And I remember one day calling him. I was driving from Vancouver, Washington. Oh, where was I? Somewhere in Southern Oregon to do a TV show. It was totally random. Some guy named Lee, I think he passed away recently. He had a TV show called Gray Matters. And
Mm.
he just saw a post that I had responded to on Facebook and asked me if I wanted to come down and be on his TV show. And I remember the post too. It's like somebody was saying something, and I was like all of racism is basically fear of the unknown. And it was an offhanded comment. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, people who are racist just don't, they're scared. They don't know anything about these
Yeah.
other people. So they make up a bunch of ideas. But that day was the day that I really understood the value that I had gotten from Steve 10 years earlier, because I remembered calling him. I was like, Steve, you're not going to believe this, man. I have a business. I'm on track to do over 100 grand a year in my own pocket. I'm going to this thing. I'm driving for 3 hours to go on this TV show. I wear suits because I thought at that time I was like, successful people wear suits, you know? And like I had all these things that I was like, man, I can't believe this. This is crazy. And it's the part of that story that's the funniest is about 3 or 4 months after that, my business failed. And I was like driving Lyft. I lived in what are those
Was
apartments
this
like?
the insurance business that failed?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was living in low income apartments. My rent was about 400 bucks a month, and I
Shit.
couldn't afford my rent. And I was like, so it was funny because I realized it right before my business failed. Um, and I don't think it could have happened at a better time, because I remembered when my business was failing, thinking back to that conversation with Steve, and I was like, I couldn't have gotten there if what Steve told me and what my grandma told me wasn't true. Like I wouldn't have gotten to that point. 99% of people will never achieve that in their life. And I was like, and this is the beginning. Like now I've met all these really successful people. I could go so much further.
Yeah. So so you're doing eight to 9 grand a month, right? And I'm assuming that's like onboarding, you said insurance, so you're onboarding new clients, you've got some residual cash flow coming in from
Yep.
policies and stuff like that. And then what time was this when it went upside down? Like how long had you been in the business? A year, 2 years?
Yeah. So this was my, like, shortly after the beginning of my third year.
Okay. And what year
And
was that?
the thing that happened that really helped me to understand business was there was a hailstorm in Texas. And keep in mind, I was living in Washington. There's a
Okay.
hailstorm in Texas. The company that owns Farmers Insurance said we need to redo the math behind how we rate people and what we charge them for their insurance. And the people that I was selling to were high risk compared to what the company wanted. So all of my customers got emails and like stuff in the physical mail saying, hey, your bill is going to be twice as much, 3 times as much, 5 times as much. So in like 1 week, I went from like, hell yeah, I'm going to make 100 grand this year to I didn't get a commission check from the company. They sent me a bill, because insurance pays you for the whole period, not just that part that they paid for up front. Yeah, it was nuts.
Right. So yeah, now you've got all these clients that basically are like getting double premiums and rate increases, and they're like, well, we can't renew this. This is nuts. So they cancel, but you've already been paid, and then now you have the chargeback.
Yeah.
and the chargeback way exceeds your commission, and they're like, you got a bill. So now you have two options. You can work essentially for free because now any new stuff you come on is just going to get eaten up by the chargeback, or you just gracefully, non-gracefully step away and go like, "No, I got to restart." That's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, for people that maybe are newer to business or have only been in business a little while, the the problem is when you're in that first 3 to 7 years of starting a business, you're spending everything that's coming in. And I was also kind of immature. You got to realize the human brain isn't fully functional and formed until you're 25. So I was just about to be completely formed. So I'm going out drinking on Friday nights. I'm, going to the movies. I have a nice car. Like I'm spending money both on the business, but I'm spending the rest on whatever I want because I've been broke and poor my whole life. And
Yeah.
so when that happens, they send me a bill. It was like $1,000. So it's not a ton of money, but it's a ton of money when the previous month you spent everything.
Right.
And yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. And so then how long did that dissolving take? Like, or was that first month of the $1,000 like enough to just be like, I'm screwed, I'm done, I can't do this?
Yeah. So what I did that month, I called the company that I had my loan on with my car, and I said, "Hey, I just lost all of my clients. Basically, I'm not going to be able to pay this. What should I do? Like, what's the best way for us to do this?" And they're like, "Well, if you can't pay, we have to repossess it." And I was like, "Okay, so like, what is that?" Like, I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, "What does that mean?" And they're like, "Well, we're going to have to come take the car." So I was like, okay, like, do you want me to tell you where it is or something? Like, what do I do? And they're like, yeah, can you just let us know where it'll be? And I was like, well, I'm at my office. Here's the address. It's here every day from 9 o'clock in the morning until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And about a month later, I gave up the keys to my apartment and I started sleeping in my office. And I was really fortunate that I've always been an early riser because I was always at the office before everybody and I always left after everybody, anyways. So, for anybody who's in sales, by the way, great recipe for success in sales: get there before everyone else and leave after everyone else. But it worked out for me because I was like, cool, I'll just throw a pillow on the ground. I'll sleep under my desk. I'll get up and go to the gym. When I'm done at the gym, I can shower and then come back to the office and I'm all good. And I probably slept in the office for about a month before my district manager found out that I was doing that. And he came to me, he's like, why didn't you say anything to me? Like, I would have helped you, man. I've got a place you could have come and stayed. And I was just too embarrassed. I was too embarrassed to tell him, like, look, dude, like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. Like, I have no idea how I'm gonna fix this. I'm not closing enough deals to keep up with my people canceling. I just had at that time had a really bad, like, I broke up with my girlfriend. So like everything was just falling apart. And about a month after, when they were like, you can't sleep in the office, I moved in with a friend of mine and I stayed with him probably for about another 2 months before I just gave up entirely on the insurance business. And at that time, I was basically just starting to build the Sandell group to start getting marketing and sales clients. And I would drive Lyft like 55 to 60 hours a week. And all of my other time, I was doing cold outreach to try and get marketing agency clients.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I know a lot of people do these things when they're in this survival mode. And I think this will be a good, like, it is what you did. I mean, you drove Lyft, you did this. Do you think, knowing what you know now, that that was the best thing to do with your time for 50 hours a week driving Lyft? Or was it just because you were so stuck in almost survival mode? Like, would you have been faster to just put that 50 hours into the marketing clients?
You know, I think I made the right choice because what happened was over the course of a couple months, I had saved up not a lot of money, like 3 grand. I had paid back what Farmers Insurance said that I owed them for the cancellations. So I wasn't in debt. I did have this negative on my credit because of the car loan. but otherwise I was okay. And the thing that happened, and this is part of the reason now I believe so fully in God, is my mom was in nursing school at the time, because she was like, I got to do something that's more consistent. And she had income coming in that stopped. And when that happened, she was like, if I don't go get a job, I'm going to lose my house. But if I go get a job, I can't finish nursing school. And so she would have had to make less money in order to keep the house, instead of doing something that would have allowed her to make more money and keep the house. And I had 3 grand. So I was like, why don't I just give you this money that I have? I'll sleep in the spare bedroom that you have. And I'll just set up a little card table in there and call it my office. And, I'll drive Lyft on the weekends, and I'll just get marketing agency clients. And so I don't know that I would have done anything differently, because it seems like basically everything lined up. And a lot of times this might be really helpful for a lot of people. Most of the times things go bad, they end up working out in a lot of different ways that you wouldn't have expected to begin with. Like I was able to help my mom keep her house and get her nursing degree. I was able to start my marketing agency in a market that was way better for me than Washington was. And all of that led to me eventually working with Ty Lopez, and now all these like really big name people that are incredibly successful. So yes, to a certain extent, it was a little bit of like, I just got to get some bills paid. I got to get money coming in. But the other side of it is like all of the other things that happened afterwards, I would have never been able to predict that would have happened. And if I'd been more selfish and said, you know what, I'll just work on the marketing agency, maybe I wouldn't have made any sales. And then my mom would have lost her house. She would have lost her nursing degree and all this other stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. It's hard too because you go back, people often overanalyze things going back and thinking like, well, I would have done this, I would have done this. Like, I think after 10 years of running my construction company, I went through a divorce, and I look back sometimes and think like, I wish I would have just sold everything then. I would have done this, I would have done this. But that's based off of now, 14 years later, knowing all of what I know. But I wouldn't have learned that if I had sold the business and right. So it's like, yeah, when I look back at it, I think, yeah, okay, and then the mistakes that you make help you like learn to move forward. So it's a good point. And the reason I ask that is because, talking to a lot of people these days about them launching an online business in marketing or whatever, lots of them are in similar situations that you just described, where they're working like this minimum wage job. They're trying to just make ends meet, but they don't feel like they have enough time. And then they're like, well, how do I have enough time to work on this when I'm just working to survive? And so then tell me a little bit more about what it is that you did. You worked during the day on your marketing company and then drove Lyft on the weekends when you were more optimal to make better money with that?
Yeah. So when I was still in Washington, that was the way I did it. I would work on my marketing agency in the morning, and then mid-afternoon, I'd head out and I'd drive until somewhere around 9 or 10 o'clock at night. When I moved to California to help my mom, what I was doing was Monday through Thursday, I would just cold call like 12 hours a day. Friday, I would leave my house. I was in San Bernardino, which is about an hour and a half drive without traffic to LA, to Los Angeles. And so what I would do is I would leave my house around 10 o'clock, 10:30 on Friday morning, because there's no traffic. And I would drive Lyft in Los Angeles until around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd drive back home, again, after the traffic. I'd sleep for about 6 or 7 hours, and I'd do the same thing again on Saturday. And then Sunday, I would take care of all the normal stuff you have to do, like washing clothes and prepping my food for the week and everything else. And unfortunately, at that time, driving Lyft wasn't making me enough money to cover my bills and like to put me in a situation to actually move forward. So on Mondays and Thursdays, I would go donate plasma, which is like where you go and you like they put a needle in your arm, you sell your blood. And that was an extra like $280 a month. And so every 3 months, I would take that $280 that I had saved from selling my blood and go to a seminar, go to like a mastermind event or something like that. because I was like, I need to get around successful people. Like, I love my mom, I love my sisters, I love my dad, like I love my family, but I was like, these are all just normal people, which, and there's nothing wrong with that. It was just like my goals and my ambitions have always been like, I want to make the most amount of money I'm capable of making so that I can make the biggest amount of impact I'm capable of making. And so I was like, I got to get around successful people. Like, they think different, they act different, the way they use money is different. And that was really like my whole life. I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Thursday, actually Monday through Friday, and I'd go to the gym. And then Friday and Saturday, I'd drive Lyft. So it's just like, I minimized my activities. One of the things I think a lot of people get wrong when they're in that kind of situation is they try to do a lot of things. And I was like, what are the like handful of things that I can do every day that will make a difference? And I was like, well, taking care of my health for sure is one, going to the gym. Number two, making a lot of phone calls, like talking to a lot of people. And not just because it gives me more opportunities to sell, but because the more people I talk to, the more I can understand what's happening in the marketplace. At that point, I was working on trying to get a lot of real estate agents to work with my marketing agency. Well, when you talk to like 50 people a day and they all start saying the same things, when you go to then sell them later on, you just repeat their words back to them. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to do that. You just repeat back, hey, I know a lot of people are really feeling like Facebook ads don't work for selling houses. But what we found was when we did X, Y, and Z, we got this result. So I had this really powerful pitch that came out of making that many phone calls. And so like when you're in that situation where you're like really just starting either from nothing or starting over, if you just do something to take care of your health, something that one activity that's going to make you the most amount of money, and then something that keeps you just healthy mentally. And for me, a lot of that was just reading books. It was just finding interesting things that I could be like, wow, that was so cool. Like, this guy started with nothing and he became the world's richest man, and this guy did this and this thing happened.
What are two of your favorite books?
um to be honest, my favorite book might surprise a lot of people. It's Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I think if you really want to understand how sidetracked your mind can make you by your circumstances, it's one of the best studies on um, criminal psychology ever. Man, what would be a second one? I don't even know, man. I would honestly like, I would say the Bible. I mean, even if you don't believe in God, if you read the Bible just as somebody who's like, I want to master life, there is so much stuff in there that you don't even have to believe in God or Jesus or any of this stuff that you can like take away and be like, that's an easy thing I can do that would make my life better.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's true. And it's one of those things it's a book I've actually picked up quite a few times and tried to read. And like so many people are like, don't start at the beginning. And I'm like, well, who reads a book from the middle? Like, and then it's like you get into the Old Testament and you start reading it. And you're like, oh, this is so dry. Like I don't even know where to find it. But I did a couple like Bible study classes the last year, right? And it was like actually kind of neat where they broke down different, you know, books and things, and then you kind of hear from it from like, religious scholars, so to speak, about what it is, and you're like, whoa, I didn't take that away. And then you reread it, you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're talking about now, and you start to like look at it from a different lens. And I think that's like one of the things. I mean, obviously, we both deal with sales in a different, well, in the same company and different companies, our own. And so when you're talking to your clients for sales, with the Sandell Group, selling your own services, do you treat it exactly the same as you do when you're selling, say, for Ty?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing about sales that a lot of people get wrong is there's a ton of sales training that you can go through. And most of it is predicated on this idea that you have to try to box somebody into a corner where they can't say no. But the reality is, if you look up the origin of the word sell or sile, the old Germanic word, it means to hand something to somebody or to give somebody something. And I I've never really liked sales. It's funny. I read Andre Agassi's autobiography recently. And it's funny because all his life he said, I hate tennis. And people thought he was making a joke. And he's like, no, I actually don't like playing tennis. But he was so fucking good at it that he was just like, what else am I going to do? It's obvious this is what I'm supposed to do. And he just went through it. I've never really been a huge fan of sales because I'm pretty introverted. And so when I first started learning sales, I started learning all these things and I would try them and I would be like, I don't like the way this makes me feel. Like I feel like I'm just tricking people. And over the last like 15 years almost straight of doing sales, I basically found it's really just three things. You spend a ton of time learning about the person you're talking to. You could call it discovery, and trying to figure out what's going wrong in their life or what's not going as well as it could be going. You spend a little bit of time just showing them what it is that they're missing, like how it is that they're either they have a belief that's incorrect, or like with my real estate agent clients that I was working with before, they all thought you can't sell houses with Facebook ads. And I was like, dude, I can get you 100 people a day asking to come see this house with Facebook ads. It's not true. And then the third part is just understanding how to very simply explain what you're going to do to help people. Um, and being persistent. Like it, and I find that that process is exactly what worked when I was selling every product I've ever sold. When I was selling gym memberships, when I was selling personal training, industrial equipment, vacuums, insurance, consulting. It's literally the same exact process every time. It's just if you take care of people. And Eleanor Roosevelt, the first lady, I think she was there's two Roosevelts that were president. I can never remember which one was married to her. This got attributed to her husband because her husband was president. But she said, if people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that to be true on sales calls. The more time you spend at the beginning of the call just not talking and just letting people talk to you, the more open they are to you pitching them, to saying, hey, you know what, I have an idea. I think if you were to do X, Y, and Z over the next month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever the time frame is, this is how things would change. And then just showing and demonstrating to people that you're the kind of person they can trust. And now in the world of social media, I mean, if there was one thing I would add to that, I would say everybody should be like posting every day. Like a lot of people reach out to me. They're like, hey, I've had this happen 3 times this week. It's totally weird. Hey, I've been watching your content for months. I love that you post your workouts every day because I've been struggling to get to the gym. I'm like, dude, I just train. Like, I love it. It's easy for me to do because I love the gym. I don't have to force myself to go. But there's people out there that like they'll come to you as mentees, they'll come to you as customers simply because they see your integrity, because you're the same person every day. You're always the kind of person that like if you have a word, you keep it. You say I'm the kind of person that works out, and then you show people. And on sales calls, it's the same thing. If you can just show people that like what you're saying, number one, will work, and number two, that you're the kind of person that will keep your word, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and then you build that rapport, and I mean, then you're getting referrals and everything else, and it like I say that it becomes easy, but it's I remember when I started in the investing business after 20 years of, my own concrete company and just like reaching out and all the the cold calling in the beginning. But funny enough, I started at A on my phone, and I think I only got to C, in my contact list where I had enough clients that I started to get busy, and then I never actually went back to my phone. I just get referrals. Like I've never looked at it and went further to like try to do like cold outreach anymore. It literally doesn't happen. I mean, I think today's total, I mean, it's whatever, 1 o'clock. I think I'm over 100 grand already again today, right? It's like pretty consistent, and they're just sending me messages and emails, but because we've done so much discovery and calls early on and found out what they want, and I send them information. And it's neat because coming to work with you and like listening to you, like you got to ask for that, you got to ask for the close 7 times on the call, or whatever, like so many times. And I don't really do it in this other business. It's more like you give them value, give them value, give them value, and then they come and ask me, and it's like that's how it's been, and it's been huge because we've just built that trust. But without realizing it, it's like I still ask. I just don't, do it the same way as you would for like, hey, do you want to buy this 997 program? But at the end of the day, I've tried that a few times, even in just like where we're talking about, say, just a physical order. And I'm like, so what's the total that you want to buy today? And they're like, oh, and it's interesting because it's a different play on normal, but it's almost always resulted in a close sale for even silver and gold because I've actually just said, hey, how much do you want today? And they're like, oh, well, I never thought about that. So it's just kind of so for you and like obviously now you're engaged, you're getting married, you're like, building a family. What's your purpose for the Sandal Group? Like what's your goal that you're going after with that company?
Yeah, I mean, to put it as succinctly as possible, I would say the most important thing I can do on this planet is to take complicated things and that improve people's lives and make them easier to buy. The reality is most of the products that do the best, they're not typically the best product. Like there's always a product that has higher quality. What it is it's the best marketed. And we
Yeah.
live in a world now where like there's so much noise between social media and billboards and people with their cars wrapped with their company stuff on it. And like everywhere you go, I think the average American sees something like 8,000 advertisements per day. Per
Wow.
day. So when we work with clients, a big part of what we're focused on is like how do we simplify how your product makes people's lives better to the point that it seems even a little bit silly to say it, but it's so clear people can just say yes or no because people don't buy when they're confused. If they're confused, they just stall like a deer in the headlights. And so for me, my first goal in life was to be a rock star because the only people I knew at that time that made people feel something important were rock stars. That was it. It was rock stars and preachers. And at 21, now finding Jim Rohn, I was like, wow, like there's more to this. There's more you can do with words. And so the logical step when I went into marketing was like, how do I take words and turn them into vehicles that allow people to live better lives? And that's really it. It's funny because like a lot of businesses, they're like, how do we get the most clients possible? I'm like, how do I have the least and still make the amount of money that I want to make per year? Because I really just want to make sure that going back to the Bible, it's like, what are the best ideas in all of human history? Those are the things that I want to work with. Like that's the kind of stuff that makes a difference for, I mean, the Bible's a good example. Hundreds of millions or billions of people's lives have been changed by that book. And so that's really the main goal.
Right. Is to impact and change lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, which is cool. And it sounds so cliche. I don't mean coming from you, but and a lot of people say that, but it's so how do you show that you mean that authentically to the people that you work with?
I just annoy them until they buy. I
Okay.
mean,
And
to
then
be
yeah.
to be fair, like if you're, let's say we were both single again, right? And we both went out to a bar and there were these two girls and we're like, holy shit, like those are the women for us, right? We wouldn't be like, hey, like we would walk up like this is preordained by God, dude. Like I don't think you understand. Like I will never stop calling you, and not in a creepy way, but in the sense that you're like, if it's really worth pursuing, you would just not give up until you got it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the clients, like I have a business that I'm going after right now. I think they have probably the best process for getting men in health. I've seen anywhere. Because what they do is they pair a doctor with a coach. So they have a coach, like a trainer essentially, and then they have somebody that's looking at blood work and actually saying, hey, you need to stop doing this, you need to stop doing this. And it fills the gap, because a lot of people, they get a personal trainer, they don't have their blood work done, they don't know, is my cholesterol high, or is my insulin out of whack, is this out of whack? But other people go to a doctor, and the doctor, all they do is like, they're like, hey, take these pills and take them for the rest of your life, you're screwed. So like, that's a good example of a client that I'm pursuing. To give you guys an idea, like, I've had 5 30 to 60-minute long phone calls with them. I've sent somewhere between 20 and 30 messages to our group chat together. I built out multiple lead magnets for them for free. And right now we're in the process of building out a ManyChat automation. And for people that don't know ManyChat, it's basically a tool that allows you to automate your direct messages on Instagram or Facebook. And we're building out the automation for them. We're going to give it to them for free as well. So like, the way that you authentically show people you care is you just care. Like, if it's like you assume the sale to begin with, which is a fancy way of saying like you just believe that they're going to buy no matter what,
Yeah.
and then you act as if they already bought. It's
Yeah.
you know, that book and that movie, like The Secret, where
Hmm.
it's like, just believe it in your mind and visualize and all this positive stuff and affirmations and everything. A lot of good sales is literally just that. Like, you just believe it's inevitable that they're going to buy, because you've identified you're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for you, and then not stopping adding value to their lives until they buy. And
Yeah.
that client, just so people have some context here, like, that client will make us about $150,000 per year in just retainers, which is about 94% profit margins for us. On top of that, we're going to get a 15% rev share, and they're already doing 10 million a year. So they have a ton of leverage to put into paid ads, to put into boosting content, to put into other stuff. So like, part of the thing that I teach in my school community is like, go after people that are already successful and work your ass off to just help them to be more successful, because we'll make more off the rev share than we will off the retainer. The retainer
For sure.
is paying me for my time, essentially. It's paying for me to bust my ass to make them more
Yeah.
successful.
Now, are you doing any business with these guys already? Like, you've done some stuff with them, I assume.
The funny thing is, I'm their client.
Okay.
So they're like, a couple years ago, I hurt my back. I was in bed for 9 months. I could barely walk. And they I got overweight, because I've always trained and I've always eaten hard, both. And when you stop training, your metabolism doesn't just go, oh, you hurt your back yesterday, I'll chill out. Like, your metabolism stays the same unless you start to like trail off yourself intentionally. So I gained a bunch of weight and I couldn't lose it. And I started working with them, and it took like 3 months to lose like 40 pounds. It was nuts. And through working with them, I got to see as a customer how their process worked. And I was like, dude, this is the best process I've seen. Like, I've worked with a bunch of different coaches and stuff like that. And so like, it's funny, because I have a good relationship with them already. And this is a good lesson for salespeople. You might have a great relationship with somebody, and it could still take 6 to 12 months to close the deal. And but the people who are slow to take action are typically slow to reverse that action too. So
Yeah,
if
that's
it
a good
takes
point.
6 months, they'll typically be more forgiving if things don't just immediately skyrocket when they do sign on the deal.
Yeah. Actually, and that, you know, and I think knowing that, like, even in my sales process, probably why I've always never been so like quick to close something on the first call, right? In my other business, right? I mean, sure, if it was a absolutely made sense, I'm never gonna say no, you know what I mean? But it's like those relationships that I have, like, they're solid. Most of my first clients that came on board with investing were concrete clients that I did repeated work for. And then when I said, hey, you know, this is something I'm thinking of doing, and you know, I've done my due diligence. I was a client, you know, of the company and all this stuff, and I just really love what I'm doing here. Um, for them to see me take a successful 20-year business and basically go, and I'm closing this door and I'm going over here, they're like, well, it must be good because he was doing really well over here. So let's listen to him for a minute, you know? And a lot of those have turned into be tons of good referrals from other people, and we just keep kind of growing, you know, and I really like that. One of the things that I'm this we talked on this earlier about the laptop lifestyle and being able to work from anywhere. Obviously, you're down in Mexico now and you're able to work down there. I assume most of your clients are in the United States. I know you have one in I know you have one in Canada who's close to me, which is cool. So um
You know, I would say probably 80 to 85% of my clients are in America. The other 15 to 20% are Canada, Denmark, Norway, the UK, and then there's like random people in Australia.
okay.
Because like I didn't say this earlier, but like the last 3 years, I have been traveling, with the exception of the last 3 months. I was traveling to a different place every 2 to 3 weeks. And so like I got to meet people in Denmark and Norway and the UK and Australia and Dubai and America and Brazil. So like um that skewed it a little bit more because I was traveling. If not, it would probably be like 95% American and then
Right.
random here and there.
Yeah, and so freedom's important to you, obviously, like
Yeah.
flexibility in your time and that kind of stuff. What does it really mean to you? Like what is freedom, that word? Like what would that look like for you, or are you already living it?
Mm, it's a good question. You know, if you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said something like doing what you want, when you want, for as long as you want, with who you want, no matter the cost. Now, after having some success in business, having some failures in business, and especially like when you travel to a place in Mexico, as an example, where like all of your costs are very low, but also like the standard of living is very different here than it is in America. And I took 2 weeks off where I just didn't work at all. I did nothing. I didn't call clients, I didn't text clients, I didn't send proposals, nothing. And I really thought, not necessarily about this specifically, but just about life in general. I would say honestly, man, like the reality of freedom is a responsibility. It is something that if you truly want like real freedom, in the sense that like you are in control of your life in every situation, it means that you're going to have to take responsibility um for your responsibilities, for your family, for other people's outcomes, for other people's success and failures. And it's a lot like a company. Like if you want to run a company, everybody's like, oh, I don't want to have a boss. I want to do whatever I want and blah, blah, blah. That's what starts a lot of people in business. But the longer you do it, the more you start thinking like, how do I help my employees? Like, how do I help my customers? Like, how do I do something, especially once you've lived the kind of life that I've lived the last few years, where you're constantly like doing what essentially whatever you want, right? Like you're traveling all over the world. You start thinking like, this is all good, but like, how do I help other people to live their dreams too? And and to be honest, that's why I tell a lot of people I don't think it's a good idea to start a business. Like it's very hard, and it's a lot of responsibility that you have to endure on your own. There's nobody, like when I go to bed at night and I'm thinking about paying my employees and bonusing my employees and getting new clients and all this other stuff, there's nobody else there. I mean, sure, my fiance is laying in bed next to me, but um that's not her responsibility. That's on me 100%. And so like it's a what's the phrase, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like
Yeah.
you can have, like Zig Ziglar said, you can have everything you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. I heard Patrick Bet David had said this a while ago. He's like, like being a business owner is not all sunshine and rainbows, which we all know. But he also talked about that he's never made more money than when he was like the second to sixth person in a business, right? We're not where he was the top. And and I had heard that before, and I was like, that's stupid. Like, I want to be my own boss or whatever. And man, since I shut my company down, I mean, yes, I still have my own company, and I'm paid that way because having a company for expenses and benefits and everything else is there. But the fulfillment of what I do now is done by our parent company, not me, right? And so I'm able to just focus on the things that I excel at, which is building relationships and talking to people and helping them solve problems. But like, yeah, without worrying about all that other stuff, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I don't have to, I mean, I have a couple people now that work for me, right? So I do have payroll and things like that that I have to do. Um, but it's different than when I had a construction company with 23 people that I was having to do all of that. Like, payroll would take like a whole day. I mean, and eventually somebody else was doing that, which then added another bill that I had to pay because now there's somebody else, involved. Knowing what
there's
you,
there's been like many times where I paid my employees and I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna buy my food on Sunday or Monday of next week.
yeah,
And like that's a real thing most business owners are going to have to deal with when they start a business. Is there's going to be times where you're going to have to say, do I take care of other people, or do I buy my groceries first and then hopefully I have money to pay them later? And the reality is, like, if you take care of other people, all that other stuff just seems to work out. Like, every
yeah,
time I've been in a situation where it's like, I'm not going to have money to buy food or something else after I pay this person or pay this contractor or whatever. Like, the next day a deal closes. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'm not broke.
yeah, yeah. So speaking of finance, then, without getting into too many specifics because it's nobody's business, but knowing what you went through with the insurance company and seeing that like basically quick decline because of other stuff, do you have any safeguards in place now with your new business after 10 years? Like, obviously, you've been doing very well. Like, what kind of things do you do to prepare for that without living in fear?
Yeah, I mean, really basic advice. And just so everybody knows, like, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a retirement planner or anything like that. The simple things I've found that will help you to stay out of bad situations. One is automate your bank accounts. So every time money goes into the bank account, 10% of it goes into a savings that you don't have access to except in person. That's a super simple thing anybody with or without a business can do that will help them. The other thing is, protect your credit. So, and like, a good example of this is I have a credit card that all of my business expenses go through, that I always pay off early, even if I'm like, I don't know, like, things are gonna be a little tight if we pay this right now. Because the reality is, it's better to pay it when you know you can than to hope nothing bad happens and something bad happens and now you can't. Um, and then the other thing I would say is, like, one thing that has been really nice the last few years is I've always been in a situation that I have people around me that are significantly financially more successful than me, that I know if I was in like the world's worst situation, I could reach out and be like, dude, loan me 10 grand at 10% interest, give me 2 months. um like, that's a thing that a lot of people don't really talk about, but it's like, again, like with sales, like, if you have integrity and you're the kind of person that like people trust and they believe that, like, when you say you're going to do something, you will skip sleeping, skip eating, skip anything you have to in order to keep your word, you have a safety net that you can trust in. And the other thing, especially in America, Canada, the UK, like, if it all fails, dude, go on food stamps, get government assistance. Like, don't be too proud. I remember when I was starting my marketing agency in 2016, I was on food stamps for the first, it was either 3 or 6 months. It was a small period of time. And I remember somebody saying, like, well, what happens if the business fails? And I was like, well, it couldn't get worse than it is already. I'm selling my blood and I'm buying food with government funds. Like, I mean, I can handle this. Like most countries have adequate enough safety nets. But be prudent that you're saving money, be prudent that you're not overspending. I think I'm very fortunate that there's not a lot of things that I really care about that are expensive. Like, I like taking my girlfriend, my fiance, to the movies, and out to dinner once a week. I like to, take supplements that keep me healthy and productive. Like, I have very little, and it's not because I don't like things. It's just because, like, I look at it, I'm like, is it worth it? And most of the time, I'm like, I might be happy about this for 10 minutes. If it doesn't make me happy every single day, as long as I have it, then it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. What's one like key principle around money and control that you never break?
It's another good question. I think it's really that, what I was just saying. Like, I watched this documentary, I don't know, maybe 10 or even 15 years ago. It might have been 15 years ago. I watched this thing on minimalism. And I'm sure it's still on YouTube or Amazon or somewhere. And the guy was really successful. Like, he sold a business, had millions of dollars in the bank, could have done whatever he wanted the rest of his life. And he did something really interesting. Was he, instead of buying a bunch of stuff, which is what a lot of people would do, he sold all of his stuff. And he very slowly began to rebuild his surroundings, like his house and his furniture and stuff like that. And the way he did it, I thought it was fascinating. He's like, if I want to buy something, I remember, I leave myself a note for 30 days from then. And if I still want it and I'm still thinking about it for that 30 days, I go buy it. If not, I don't even remember I left the note for myself. And I think the reality is, it's very easy. And I'm not immune, by the way. Like, nobody's immune to good marketing and advertising. But it is very easy to see something that makes something amazing, and somebody's a great marketer, so you're like, hell yeah, I have to have this thing. But if you actually just put a pause in between seeing the advertisement and buying it, you usually find you don't even remember. Like, I have 100 tabs open in my phone. I'd guess 20 of those are things that I was interested in buying at one point that I don't even remember the tab in my phone.
Yeah, I did that actually. You were talking about that the other day, and I was like, oh man, I got so many tabs. Even now, I'm looking at my computer. There's probably 30 tabs open, right? Because I got different. And my wife's like, you can find that stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of it, I click on it every single day. Like I do different things, and it just makes it simple. It's quick, right? I hate I hate searching for stuff. I just want it there, for me. I love that book. It's the minimalist, probably. Like, is that what you're talking about? That show is like a movie?
I don't even remember. I think it
Okay.
was like an hour-long documentary or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's still on Netflix actually called The Minimalist. It's a good, and then they actually went, if it's the same one that I'm thinking of, they actually went on a tour and they were doing stuff after the fact because the show became so popular, and then they kind of documented that like a little bit more, trying to get involved in people. There was a book, The Life Mary Kondo or whatever the life-changing magic of tidying up, but where
Yeah.
it's like have you read where she's like talking about like you hold it, it could be your underwear or your shirts, and you're like, oh, this gives me such joy. Well, then you keep it, but you're like, man, I don't care. You're like, chuck it. We did that years ago. I look around and I'm like, yeah, I got rid of like so much stuff. I still could do a way bigger purge. Going away and traveling this summer, I went to BC for a few weeks. And I only had, so many black t-shirts, pair of jeans, pair of shorts. I was like, I could literally live like that. I pretty much wear a black t-shirt every day because it's just simple. I just put it on, and I have a closet full of suits that I used to have. Same thing. Like when I was fighting, I was always wearing suits to the fights and dressing up and doing things. And I can remember, like, even still sometimes when I wear it, I'm like looking at all the bow ties and the ties and being like, which one do I want to wear today? And I consciously think about it now when I'm getting dressed up, how much freaking time that takes. Where like when I get up in the morning, I just throw a black shirt on, put on the things. I don't look at my socks. I just grab them, I put them on, and I'm like, I'm good. And it saves so much time. So you're a guy that I see the discipline, that you do with the gym and whatever. You keep do you keep your same schedule for the most part, 7 days a week?
Yeah, yeah. I would say so. I train the way that I train is like maximum intensity. So for people that go to the gym, to give you an idea, every single exercise I do, every set I go until my muscles stop moving. So I go to complete failure. And when I have the ability to, like my fiance trains with me a lot, I'll have her help me get the weight up again a couple more times. So like I can't actually train more than 4 or 5 days a week maximum. If I do, I just end up getting a cold or a flu every couple months.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing every day, like five o'clock in the morning, Mexico time, which is 4 a.m. in California. I get up, I pray, I have a light breakfast before the gym. I go to the gym. On non-training days, I usually will still go to the gym, but I'll just walk at an incline for like 45 minutes and stretch for 15
So
minutes.
you keep the routine.
Yeah, yeah. There's usually one day a week where I just sleep in. Like I don't set an alarm or anything. I just wait for my body to wake me up. Because like it's like babies, right? Like babies
Yeah.
sleep all the time,
Is
and you
that
see a
typically
baby,
Sunday? Or
huh?
is that Sunday or Saturday? What day do you normally do that?
It depends. It
Okay.
depends on the week. So if I have stuff that I'm doing on Saturday, like down here, we spend a lot of time with my fiance's family on Saturdays. So I'm usually up early to get some work done before that. And then Sunday I'll sleep in. But I mean, you get older. Like when I was in my 20s, I never stretched at all and it didn't matter at all. Now it's like if I don't stretch, I wake up and like I can't move. Like my back gets really tight and stuff like that. And I'm not, messing around. Like my leg press is 800 pounds. Like it's not like I'm doing light weights and it doesn't matter. But I mean, I think that the best thing about my life in general is how simple it is. I never feel like I have too much stuff going on. It's just nice, clean chunks. It's like an hour for prayer and food, an hour for the gym, some breakfast and some work, lunchtime. Like it's just so simple to follow. And I don't ever have to worry like, oh, am I getting enough done? It's an easy routine.
Right. And you develop that over time, obviously. It hasn't
Yeah.
always been like that. For somebody starting out, brand new, put yourself back, and I'm not saying change anything in your life, but if you were talking to your 25-year-old self about launching and starting their business, what would you encourage yourself to do versus like what you did then versus how you live now? Would you actually encourage them to do what you did, or would you try to instill the habits that you have now to somebody new starting out?
Yeah, I would honestly say the best way to start is go in a room by yourself, no phone, no headphones, no music, no boyfriend, no girlfriend, no TV, no social media, nothing, with a pen and a piece of paper and put together an actual plan. And like one thing that I think a lot of people do wrong is when they set goals, they just pick arbitrary numbers. They say, I want to make 10 grand a month. It's like, okay, well, is that enough for you to do everything you want to do in life? Like, how much does it actually cost for you to live in your dream home, to have your dream car, to travel as often as you want to travel, to pay your bills, to eat healthy food, to have a good gym? Like, so I think the best thing for anybody who's just starting is to spend time actually defining exactly what you want out of life. And then after you've defined what you want, go in ChatGPT and tell it and ask it to tell you how much that's going to cost. So you have an easy goal to shoot for because you know why you're shooting for it. You're like, well, if I hit 50 grand a month, I'm going to have a castle. I'm going to have this car. I'm going to have this thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to live this way. So a lot of people struggle to be persistent because they don't know why they're going after their goals because they didn't define what they were going after in the first place. The second thing I would tell people is like, if you're, especially if you're starting a business, have other money coming in. Don't just quit your job and be like, oh, I'm going to be rich next month. Like, it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like you can understand this because you were in construction for a long time. It's like, just because it's easy doesn't mean it's, or simple doesn't mean it's not still going to take 6 months. It's going to take time, and sometimes it'll take less time than you thought. Sometimes it'll take a lot longer. um but you got to know why you're doing it for to begin with, because if you don't have your goals really well defined, when you get started, you're just going to get knocked around until you quit. And then I would find somebody that's already really successful at that and find a way to get them to talk to you. I did this with the gym, I did this with insurance, and I did this with the online game, with ending up even working for Ty and with Ty over the last 6 years, Ty Lopez. I always just found somebody. I was like, they already know it. Like, they're already making 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, $1 billion. Why wouldn't I go just find a way to add value to their life so that they'll tell me what it is they're doing so I can do it?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, Jeremy, I'm really glad we could talk on here today. I learned so much more about you. Some things were reaffirmed. I'm grateful. If people are wanting to reach out and see you for business, they're interested in becoming a client or exploring what that like, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, my social media is the same on every platform. It's the Jeremy Sandell. And then my school community Stealth Closer is on school, like the school platform, SKOOL. And that's specifically better for people who are either already selling but not making as much money as they want to, or people who are trying to get into selling and they don't want to waste a lot of time going through a ton of trainings that don't work.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Not
hey,
to say I know it all, man. Like, I definitely am still learning, like anybody who's alive on this planet. But I've spent a lot of my time taking training that just didn't go anywhere. It didn't move the needle whatsoever. And so I've been able to like develop things that I think not only like work, but they also don't leave you feeling slimy afterwards.
right. Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I really appreciate your time today, and I can't wait till we can get together in person and train some legs together.
Yeah, I wouldn't hope for that one, man. You're gonna be crawling home. We'll have to call an Uber and an ambulance.
Well, I'm a little bigger than you, so I mean, I know that I can push a lot more weight, but I have a feeling it's still going to be a fun day.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. Now I like that. I like what you said. I am going to do that. I do have to run because I got a call at 2 o'clock, like in 10 minutes. I got another investing client call. So I will just do a quick promo because that is a good idea. I really like that idea actually for how to do that because with getting and having that conversation and then talking, introducing you a different way will be like I'd introduce you way differently now after that call than I would have had I done it in the beginning. I know I didn't do it because I just wanted to jump in, but
Yeah.
I think it's so. Yeah, now I got to figure out how to clip everything together because that's the next part. But my wife's going to help me with a lot of that. So, um, yeah. Hey, so welcome to the Spicer Life podcast. Today we've got Jeremy Sandell from the Sandell Group on. We're going to talk about Jeremy's life, what it was like leading up to business, starting his business, failure, success, and what he does now and how he's growing. So, Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think that was good. And yeah, I'll have to clip that. So yeah, man, I really do. I appreciate it. This was great, and I'm excited to see kind of what's going to happen next for you anyway. Just to see, kind of how life's going to transform. The stuff we're going through. I can shut this off too. Actually, I don't care to keep